Hey everyone, welcome to Known Legacy. This is Travis here at Lone Star State Cigar with my friend Bill. Say good morning, Bill.
I'm freezing.
It is a little chilly here today, no doubt about that.
I feel cold today.
Yes, and speaking of cold,
I'm as cold as ice.
what's the next line?
I think
Something
it's you're willing to
paradise?
sacrifice our love.
Yeah.
You're willing to sacrifice our love.
Who sings that?
Foreigner.
Foreigner.
Thank
Kyle
you
from the corner.
Kyle.
Thank you very much.
Kyle, that's a terrible way to describe you. Kyle is more than just from the corner.
Our studio audience of one is keeping us legit with our song references, so I appreciate that.
You're as cold as ice.
Dude, I've been battling a cold all week, and it's wrecking my mental capabilities. So I'm a little slower today than normal. So I may not join you in.
We could even say
singing.
like capacabilities.
Capacabilities.
Your capacitator is not working today.
I would agree with that. 110%. It is not working as well as it should. Hey, we have some exciting stuff for us today. Just two quick announcements that we want to get on the record. First announcement is this. At the March 2nd, we are doing our Known Legacy Conference here in Allen, Texas. So if you live in the area, we encourage you to sign up. Bill, why don't you give us some info on that?
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time. We've March 2nd. It's from 4 to 8:30 at night.
4 to 8:30 at night.
Right here. You can see more information about how to get there, where it is, but it's inside Allen. It's at Grace Church in Allen, Texas, and it's going to be a good night. It's for parents of all ages.
Okay.
And because we believe in parenting, we also believe in strong marriages.
We believe in having kids and the act of having
it's
the ability to have kids.
Practice makes more practice.
More practice.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So we're
I feel like I'm committed to practicing more than my practice partner.
We're just devoted. We have a goal in mind and we just go at it.
This is where I'm disciplined in my life. Nowhere else, but right there, I am disciplined in preparing. Anyways, that's not what the conference is about. It's about parenting.
No, but I bet you we wouldn't be able to hold people in there if it was about that. So, but because then it would be practical application time is at the end to go home.
Let's share personal story time. It's not going to happen.
No. So, anyways, let you know more about that as we're derailing the conference already.
So give us the details on the conference. Man.
So again, March 2nd from 4 to 8:30.
What's the cost?
The cost is the cost of a dinner out. It's $30 a person. It's really what it is.
Oh, fantastic.
So $30 a person, and then child care is included, but there's a acceptable donation of $5 a child, no more than $10 for a family. So if you got a family of 6, bonus.
Right.
And so we would just want to try and help supplement some of those costs that we're spending because we're bringing in some awesome speakers. We are literally bringing in speakers who can help parents from preschool all the way up to empty nesters and retirees. So if you're thinking, man, my kids are out of the house, well, we've got something for you too.
Right.
So all ages, it's going to be a good time. Plus, we're going to have dinner.
Nice.
And a little kind of concert from Matt Hammett, who used to be the lead singer of Sanctus Real.
Nice.
He has a song called Lead Me. Many people have heard that. It's funny when I start telling people, like, who's this Matt Hammett guy? And I'm like, oh, you just got to, you start singing a couple lines from Lead Me, and they're like.
Would you sing a couple lines right now?
I will not. I already did my song. I did Foreigner's Cold as Ice. So, but it's going to be a powerful time. It's going to be a good night. You're going to be blessed to be there. Check it out online. You can go to knownlegacy.org/events and check out more information about it. There's a link to sign up right there. Also, you can check it out on our Facebook and our social media, Known Legacy on Instagram and Facebook.
Absolutely. And for those of you watching today, there are a few special incentives to actually sign up early. And so, Bill, would you tell us about those incentives?
The first 100 people get put into a drawing. So not like just registrants, but the first 100. So if it's you and your spouse, they both go into the drawing for a gift card to the movies, a night out to the movies, and not like a cheap one,
nice.
like about $150 value.
Yeah.
And then a bag of swag from Known Legacy. Some different fun stuff will be in there. Some books, a bag, pen, all that kind
bottle
of fun
opener, stuff like that.
Bottle openers.
Yeah, that bottle of wine.
The famous Known Legacy coffee mug.
The Known Legacy mug.
That is there, and so you'll have that as well.
The official jingle, by the way.
So when you listen to this, you can... The Known Legacy mug. You can drink with your mug, which are also going to be available at the conference. Car decal, thing like that. So, anyways, it's worth getting into. It's worth getting in now so that you can get in that drawing because that first 100 is going quick already.
It is. Second announcement that we have. An announcement. I hate the word. Maybe it's informational dump. I don't know. Anyways,
I don't know. the word dump sounds any better. Let me make this easier.
So, anyways, we're on a time schedule. I got 2 minutes to do this. Last week we did an experiment with some upgraded equipment, and it made a world of difference, particularly with our video. And so we are looking for a specific donation. If you are available to make this donation, we'd love to hear from you at knownlegacy.org.
Info at Legacy.
And basically, we are using an old iPad Air, first generation, to capture all this video, and it just struggles. It lags, it glitches, it kind of catches up, it slows down, and it's just a pain to use. And so we used an iPad Pro, and it was fantastic, and the video came out clean and crisp and beautiful. And so we are looking for an iPad Pro, first generation or newer. And so if you have one that you're getting rid of, man, we would love to have access to that and put it to good ministry use for the next few months, years.
Yeah.
If not, if you got resources that maybe you want to donate to it, we would take that as well, so we could buy one and upgrade our video.
Yeah, that'd
capture.
be good. There's always time. We always want to make this better and as quality as we can to impact the most amount of people. So, thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that in advance, and we appreciate the help that could come from this.
So, here's the question today. Did you see the scandal that broke a day ago? The Gillette commercial. Wait, let me do that different. Did you see the Gillette commercial?
I did see it, and it's funny. I heard about it more than I saw it.
Yeah.
Which made me see it. So Gillette just made a ton more impact in their commercial by everyone talking about it.
Oh yeah, they nailed it.
But it blew me away at how absolutely divided people were with it, and I think that's the part that blew me away with it. So I saw it first. I saw it because someone mentioned it to me, and thankfully they were unbiased in it at that point. And then I looked it up, and then boom, it was like all this both sides bias.
So let me ask you a question, because we believe questions are powerful.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you a question. What's your take on it? Because I know, within 24 hours, the lines have been drawn. I guarantee most of the guys listening to this, because it's going to come out next week after the scuttle has blown over and everyone's moved on to something else. But what's your initial take on it? Just the video itself.
So when I saw the video at first, my blood pressure went up a little bit.
Why?
Because I heard a line, and it was, "Well, boys will be boys," and it sounded very demeaning at first.
Okay.
And I was mad.
All right.
Because I was like, wait. Because boys need to be boys. Boys need to be rough and tumble and skin their knees and things like. I mean, anybody can be rough and tumble. I'm not saying just boys, but it seemed very demeaning at first. But then I kept watching it, and I saw, how do I put it? I saw a little bit of heroics by the end of it, if I could make sense. Because to me, this is my perspective. To me, it didn't sound like they didn't want men to be men. They wanted men to be honorable. Now, again, some people are going to shut it off right now and be upset, but listen out to me as we continue to talk about.
Listen out to me, people.
Listen out to me.
Good, yes, you are.
Yes, I am. And so, as I think about this, I think that I had to put on my lens that we talked about last week with Over a Cup. So I was like, dang it, we're talking about it now. I got to actually apply it.
Right.
Here. And what I saw at the end was the kids staring at the dads. Of all color. I saw that in the beginning. I know that sometimes, and we're not going to get into it to a coloring, but I saw that every child of different colors saw that their dad could be honorable. That's what I took away from it. When the dad is chasing the group of kids down the street to stop that one kid from being bullied, when the one dad went over and was like, it wasn't that I think he didn't want his kid to, that's what I took. It wasn't that he wanted his kid to not wrestle and be rough. It's that he saw that this kid was trying to actually beat him up. And I know that you want your kid to win. And there's certain places where you can do that. There's certain places that you can allow your child to win like that, to be defended.
There's healthy masculine behavior and there's negative masculine behavior.
Exactly.
Right?
And so I think that's where I liked it. But even before, what did you think about it before we go into it?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Bill. I'm glad you asked. And it was a great example for me of checking my filters because I was triggered.
Yeah.
I was triggered.
Yeah.
I had to get my coloring book out and get some quiet place.
Oh, gosh.
Because I was, my initial thought was propaganda and I didn't see it in the light that I think they intended it to.
Mm-hmm.
There were some key things, like a few observations. Like I like art, I like film. I've been in theater, and so I kind of see things. And some of the things that intrigued me were almost all of the aggressive behavior was done purely by white males. I think there was, I'm going to assume the best and say that was just an artistic decision.
Coincidence.
There was no other words or other focus behind that. Now, I know others have taken that and said, see, the smoking gun, they have an ulterior motive. They have an ulterior.
Yeah.
And then after talking to you, I had to check my filters and go, okay, wait a second. At the heart of this video, what I got out of it was this. Men, you play an essential role in development of young men.
Yeah.
And we cannot anymore just disengage by saying, boys will be boys. We have to step in and become proactive in that.
Yeah.
And I don't think and so for me, it was a great lesson again of Over the Cup and what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I came into this with some filters that immediately it hit one or two of those filters, and I had a very clouded view of this. Where there could be some truth in that, but assuming the best, I'm going, no, this is a bold statement from a company saying, listen, we sell razors primarily to men, and it's time that we teach boys how to be men.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean not fighting. It means fighting for the right things.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean not wrestling. It means are you wrestling for those who can't wrestle for themselves? And so I think there's a lot of good opportunity there to take and really identify what positive masculinity is. It doesn't talk about that as much as the negative masculinity.
That's what I noticed.
Objectifying women. And I think all of us would say, yeah, objectifying women is horrible.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
And so it was a great reminder to me that anytime I come into a conversation, I become clouded by my political filters.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And I can sometimes miss really good stories and really compelling, thought-provoking moments because I just dismiss it going, my filter, it hit it, I'm done.
Because this is coming from two guys who are not participation trophy fans.
No.
We're not when we were in school, if you first, second, third, if you got fourth, you didn't get a trophy.
Yeah, suck it up, Buttercup.
And you're like, okay, next time I'm going to try better. It caused me to want to do better.
Or I'm going to find something I am good at, and I get a third place trophy.
Correct.
And if I'm not good at that, right.
Keep fighting. And so this is not coming from that kind of mindset of, man, everybody deserves a trophy, because we don't really deserve anything, especially if our filter is the scriptures. Man, we are broken, and we are all in need of hope to do better. So I would say that for me, what I saw was I had an opportunity to see it the way that I needed to. And I had an opportunity that my son was sitting next to me. And so instead of me taking it and going, man, I'm gonna get upset and I'm gonna throw out facts online about how stupid this is or whatever, I had an opportunity to go, wow, I could take the back end of that and find the redeeming quality in it, which was, wow, imagine if people spoke life. Now, already people are again shutting this down and already burning all their Gillette stuff.
Which is so stupid.
Well, in any way, I feel like when that pendulum swings and we're like, calm down. Let's have an actual conversation about this stuff.
Right.
Before we burn everything that we own. Because you're like, first thing, you've already bought that stuff, so use it for one thing.
Right.
If you choose not to do it again, great. We live in a free nation that you don't have to buy that stuff again. That's totally fine. But let's even move beyond the Gillette thing to go on our filter. And I guess that's what I took from it. I was like, my first thought was, that's it, I'm done. Thank God I use Dollar Shave Club. So, because I don't have to even worry about this.
Right.
Because they send me my razors and I don't have to even worry about it. Thanks, Dollar Shave Club. You're welcome for this little pitch.
Right.
If you do use Dollar Shave Club, use my name so I can get some free stuff.
Right.
But anyways, all that to say, we react so quick to it. And I guess that's why I'm excited about us doing this Over the Cup challenge.
Right. And I think for me, like, now my senses are heightened, and so I'm going to be very critical because they put a flag in the sand.
Yeah.
They said, hey, we are going to be about men. The best a man can be. Their tagline, the best man it can be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be really critical now because they've made that statement, and I'm going to say, okay, is all of their marketing now going to be in line with that? Are they going to stop using objectification to market Gillette? Like I saw one of the photos of Formula One, and they had a bunch of ladies dressed in these really skin-tight outfits, and on their butts was the word Gillette, because that was their marketing back then. Now, that could have been 2 years ago, 5 years ago, who knows? But moving forward, I want to make sure that there's consistency within that company, that this is a genuine shift for that company, not just a clever ploy because they want to virtue signal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that, and I commend them for that. Rock and roll, make that happen. You know, I'd rather you take a stand and then make adjustments afterwards than to just keep going as things are and not. So, anyways, over the cup is what we've been talking about. We thought the Gillette thing was a great example of what that. How horribly wrong it can go. And last week, if you haven't, really encourage you to listen to last week's podcast or watch last week's video, because we talk about, what are some of the keys to having effective conversations over the cup. Again, over the cup is having hard conversations that need to happen with people you may disagree with. It's not just political conversations. It's not just business conversations.
Yes.
A lot of times it's family conversations. And sometimes it's a conversation with your wife. And too often we as men will just ignore it, hoping it goes away, rather than learning the skill set to have difficult conversations over a cup of coffee, cup of tea, cup of wine, cup of beer, whatever it is.
Yep.
And so we're saying, guys, it's time to get off of the fence behind the Weber and engage in some of these hard conversations.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we want to do. So for us, the challenge this week is now what does a successful over-the-cup conversation look like?
Yeah, the markers of, how do you know if you've had a successful over-the-cup conversation? Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I keep thinking about how many times we don't, the thing I love about what we get, Travis, is that we get to have this conversation.
Right.
So I think a lot of people don't have someone that they can just bounce off of. And I keep running back to Proverbs 27:17, which is iron sharpens iron. So you find another piece of iron. So before you get pissed off and you start call your buddy and go, hey, can you check out this? Just check me on this. John Crist, you know who John Crist is, comedian?
I do.
I love his phrase, check your heart. I mean, I know he didn't make it up, but just this idea, it's funny as much as he talks about it in a humorous way. This idea of, okay, let me check my heart really quick, but let me have another friend, another piece of iron check my heart too, to go, hey, can you check that out? Because what I'm seeing is a little weird, and let's talk about it before I make a decision.
Right.
So that we can become sharper together.
Right, and what's interesting is I think culturally we've lost that because we've turned our studies, which is a place where we used to be filled with knowledge and have conversations, into our man caves, which have become nothing more than loud sports activities where we talk sports all the time.
Yeah.
So we're having conversations, just not meaningful, deep conversations.
Yeah.
We have conversations about how Jason Garrett may be a soft coach or a bad coach or an uncreative coach or a horrible coach or blah, 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 blah. But we're not talking about some of the real issues unless we see it on TV and then we yell at each other through Facebook.
Correct.
And that's not what we're talking about.
No.
So here's some of the markers that I think would be important for us. So you engage in this conversation. Let's say it's with your wife, and it's a hard conversation. I've had some of these recently with us looking at moving, a new job for me with planting a church on the west side of the Metroplex. I know her heart is to have deep roots. But I also know that following God, sometimes that means you trust Him with your roots, it's going to be hard. And so, one of the things that, for me, as we evaluated whether it was a successful conversation or not, is there was time and room for a follow-up conversation.
Yeah.
There were multiple times I wanted to put my foot down and say, I am the Father, and we shall do X. But at the end of the day, I was like, no. We're not there yet. I'm going to trust the Spirit to do what only the Spirit can do, and we're going to have a follow-up conversation.
Yeah.
And then internally, I'd put it on my calendar when we're going to have that follow-up conversation. So I think that's important. That's an important marker. When you leave a conversation, a difficult conversation, and you're not having the attitude of I want to follow up conversation so I can smoke them. It's no. There's a lot more to dig into here, and I want to get after that.
Yeah. So I think the desire for a follow-up conversation is so important. And so, don't you love when
someone's getting a phone call?
Yeah, it's okay. It's how it is. It's all right.
It's all good.
We will let it go as long as the camera's still working.
Yeah, it's good. It's still working.
And we can.
Yeah, keep going.
So I think one of the desires for in a follow-up conversation is for us to be willing to look at it from the idea of gaining new insight and understanding of the person. Like, so the person you're coming at, like, so when all this comes together, I guess that's what I would challenge you is, like, as we're looking at this, we've had a conversation with someone. So whether it's someone in our family or it's someone that we say, you know what, I have nothing in common with this individual, so I'm going to have coffee with them or have a beer with them or whatever it is, have the conversation, but don't have the conversation just to attack. But first thing I guess I'd say is to gain new insight and understanding of the person's story and their perspective.
Right.
Understand why they believe the way they believe is, I think, a huge thing.
Right.
So taking that time to listen to them and saying, so I'm walking in here, even, for example, this Gillette thing. So we look at this and we're like, man, if we could possibly, before I got completely mad, this is what came to mind. I'm like, let me just listen to this really quick. I'm not going to, this isn't going to change me right now in this moment. I could get angry and I could get self-righteous. But let me just listen. Let me look at the whole picture. Because we always take this one little piece and we basically rip apart the rest of it. And I'm just using that as an example because I've done that with individuals. Is they say one thing and then I like crucify them for everything that they've done. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you said this one thing, but then everything else around that is almost counterintuitive to what they said. And I'm like, okay, so they're still trying to figure this out too.
Right. Okay, so a great example of that is we were doing a church plant and Easter was coming up, and I had this really great, loyal family that would set up communion. Communion is one of those things we do regularly within our church body.
Yeah.
And they would set up communion, and they valued communion on Easter Sunday. The problem is that we have a high value of communion, and so we visitors and guests that may not understand it, we want to make sure they understand it before they're partaking in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Easter is one of those high visitor guest families. So anyways, made an 11th hour decision not to do communion. I failed. I didn't communicate it to them. So they rolled in on Easter Sunday. Mm-hmm. They started setting up communion, and as they're putting it out, I'm like, oh, we're not doing communion today. Infuriated them. They stormed out, and I realized I need to have a follow-up conversation with them.
Yes.
Went into that conversation the next week, and they were just lambasting me. I deserved it. I got it. It was no big deal. I didn't take it personal because I'm like, I messed up there. I got it. And then we started really talking. And what I realized was the wife shared this. She goes, normally I'm the one that holds on to things and can't get over it, but I got over this. Like literally that afternoon, I was over it.
Yeah.
But my husband, who normally gets over things like that, he's still struggling with this. Yeah. And it's been 7 days. He's still struggling with it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I said, well, your reaction is not normal, so that probably means there's something else motivating this reaction. Let's talk about what else is going on in your life. An hour and a half later, what we realized is this was the straw that broke the camel's back, but there was a whole host of other things on the back of the camel that was really the issues, the challenge, the stressors, and the problems. Now, had I only reacted to that straw, that moment, we never would have gotten to the deeper issues and the deeper challenges and the deeper realities of what was going on. And so it was by listening, following the things that we talked about last week. It was listening. It was assuming the best in the situation. The cold is getting me.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I'm saying.
Yes.
So,
I think that's, I think about it this way. When I was a kid, we had 3 Star Wars movies. Okay, 3. The minute
which were numbered 4, 5, and 6.
Yes. 4, 5, 6. And so the minute that from the very first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, Darth Vader comes out behind the smoke. And all I saw was a machine. That's all I thought it was this dark, scary machine, basically the devil coming out. And then you go back and you try not to watch the first one because who in the world made Jar Jar Binks and what is going on here? And that was a mistake from day one. So if you don't have to worry about that one, but the second and third ones, and you start watching and then you're so involved. And I remember the minute that my entire perspective changed. See, at first it was like, he is an evil and I hate him. Even at the end when Luke killed his dad and he came out and you're like, okay, he was a man, but whatever. And you go back to that third one, you realize that the reason why he became a monster was because the love he had for his wife. Like, yes, there's a whole lot of things. But it put flesh on a monster for me.
Right.
And I think a lot of times as we have these conversations, we walk in looking at a person and go, they are a monster. They are the antithesis of who I am. So when I begin to hear their backstory, it changes my perspective of who they are, and it helps me understand. That doesn't mean I like what they like. It helps me be able to see them as an individual that God created the way that he wanted me to see them.
So part of the win of an over-the-cup conversation is when you walk away from that conversation with new insights, new ideas, and new understanding of who that person is and their story.
Yeah.
Because our ideas don't come from anything.
No.
They come from our history, their past. And so as we dive into that and dig into that, we can gain and say, oh, I see why you see it that way.
Yes.
I may see it different.
Yes.
That doesn't invalidate your way of seeing it, but let's figure out and let's go to it. I think that one of the warnings that we want to give here, I guess two warnings, is one, when you're engaging in these conversations, try not to, as much as possible, take it personal.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yes, it is.
It's very hard. Try not to take
Extremely.
it personal. Number two is this. Stories are extremely powerful,
Yeah.
but stories by themselves are not true.
Yeah, they may not be. You know, I was reading this one book, and it was about TED Talks, and one of the best TED Talks was done. I forget the person's name because it's not in this page of the book, but you can see that one of the best TED Talks. Let me get back to this here and find his name. Brian Stevenson. In 2012, he was rated one of the best TED Talks, and they broke down his TED Talk, and they realized that there's these three different parts: ethos, logos, and pathos. Every time I thought, I was like,
Could you explain those to us?
Yes.
Please
At first,
explain
it
those.
sounded like the three Musketeers, Athos, Porthos, and whatever. But that's not them. Ethos is basically, and I'm dumbing this down for myself, so is your credibility. Oh, this happened to me, therefore I deserve to stand on this stage. About 10% of it. Now that's a very dumbed down version of it, but there's credibility. He's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he did this, he fought some social injustice, whatever, and he's up there. He or she is up there. So 10% of everything is ethos that made this thing successful. 25% is logos, which is basically just like information, facts, data.
Right.
The things that are
Right.
collected of. We see that this is, 70% of men in prison come from fatherless homes. Things like that, the facts. But then 65% of the impact in his story that made it so powerful was the stories that he shared. And I kept looking at this and going, man, the biggest thing that we have with this is that stories have powerful impact. I guess that's what I took away from that. Stories have powerful impact on what can help change and transfer someone's course of direction.
Right.
Because it makes it personal. The Shriners, for example. If someone came up to me and said, which is still great, we could save 100 children this year with your donation. I may want to give. You know what I'm saying? But I could also pass on that very, very quickly. If it just said, there's 100 kids that could get help, or 100 people could get help by doing this. But the minute you say, Susie, you put a face up there and you say, Susie can go home and finally watch The Little Mermaid with her family. Or, the grandmother can finally paint her granddaughter's toenails. I'm like, yeah, take my money. You know what I'm saying? Like, the story causes me to want to react in a more powerful way. And so I guess what I'm saying is, just like you said, the stories aren't necessarily always possibly the truth, but they're a perspective for us to get insight into someone's reason as to why they believe what they believe.
Right. And I think that would be the final kind of, I guess, encouragement for us when we talk over the cup. Stories are compelling. Stories are emotive. Stories can be used through propaganda, right?
Yes.
So a story without being able to stand up to the scrutiny of questions.
Yes.
And I think that's the key. The ability to hear a great, compelling story, but still ask questions.
Yeah.
And to kind of pull out. There's more change that happens in an individual because of a good question than a powerful statement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing. If you leave that conversation realizing you asked more questions than you gave powerful statements, that's probably a successful over the cup conversation.
Yeah, gathering data, because our goal at the end of this is not that we would just flat out win at this point. Our goal isn't to just win. We all want to win. We all want to be successful and walk away and go, this was purposeful. But there's a lot of purpose in building relational equity with somebody.
Right.
And taking that time to say, I trust you with my heart, and you trust me now with yours.
Right.
And that actually breaks down barriers. I don't know the actual statistic, but it is proven that when someone gets heard, their wall starts to fall.
Right.
So we want people to be heard and allow their wall to fall so we can have real impactful questions versus just a swift rebuttal.
Absolutely. So, anyways, we know it's a journey, and when you're talking with spouses and kids, particularly in the teenage years, this is an important skill that not only do we need to model for them, but again, like the Gillette commercial, we have a chance to teach them how to do this in their own life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so engage in the conversation. Get yourself your favorite beverage, get them their favorite beverage, and start to have the conversations about stuff. So final thoughts, Bill?
Yeah. So one final thought is we always want to bring it back to the truth of God's Word because we really do believe that God's Word is 100% true. And we take this from one of the greatest relational equitable people in the world, which was Jesus. And so for all these chapters, if you read in Mark 8, in all these chapters, Jesus does all these miracles, and he builds this, I'm going to say, team around him, a brotherhood of guys that are just watching him during all this. And you jump down to Mark 8, verse 27, it says, "And Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked his disciples, 'Who do people say that I am?' And they told him, John the Baptist, others said Elijah, others said one of the prophets. And then he asked them, 'But who do you say I am?'
Power of a question.
Yes, and Peter says, 'You are the Christ.'" This is 8 chapters into the story.
Right.
So it wasn't like he walked up and said, "You got to agree with me completely to follow me." Right now.
And let me tell you who I am because I know the truth, and so this is the truth. Boom. He
could've.
lived this story. He engaged in the story, and he invited them to the story. And then afterwards, through the power of question, he goes, "I'm going to have you reveal truth.
Yes.
Who do you say I am?"
Yes. And so I think for us to go, man, he was motivated by them seeing the story lived out because of the relational equity that he had, and he asked them questions like that to build it. Because as we talked about before, fact plus stories plus relational equity can equal changed lives.
Right.
It's not one or the other. You need the facts, you need the stories, but you got to know that your facts line up with your stories.
Say that again.
Facts plus stories.
Right.
Plus relational equity can equal changed lives.
That is a powerful, powerful equation that we need to engage in.
Yes, and so I say this week, take the time to find someone. This is our homework. Take the time to find someone that you don't agree with. And again, they may be living under your roof.
Right.
Or roof.
It's a roof in the
whatever
South.
it is. Yeah. And take the time to engage them in conversation, to try to have a follow-up conversation with them, like plan that out, to gain new insight and understanding of who they are,
right.
To not come out with a bunch of rebuttals, but to listen, to ask leading questions, and then to, honestly, pray for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully your goal is that at the end of this, you're not going, here's my 10 points as to what I'm going to share again, but to go, God, reveal to me how I need to be praying for this person.
Right.
Pray for them, and Father, help me to love them like you love people.
Love you guys. God bless you. Sign up for the conference. It's not too late, and the first 100 get entered into that drawing.
Share it with your friends.
Yeah, if you got an iPad Pro, we'll take it.
Have a great week, guys. Take it easy.
All right.